Hello everyone, today, the recording date is January 3rd for this video, and the Stephen Bomb 4 is coming out with new episodes, Stephen's birthday week, and I am psyched, because I've seen the promos, I've looked up as much information about it as I can, and I am super excited. So, this picture on the screen right now is about Stephen Bomb 4, or as it says, the week of Lapodiolite. Which I don't actually believe this is true. It's a myth. I'm not sure. People aren't sure if it's just like a leak or is it somebody messing with us and this is their own picture. It looks kind of drawn out, like they made it online or something, or maybe even drew it by hand. So today I'm going to be discussing with you what I think will happen in Stephen Bomb 4. So let's get started. I think the Stephen Bomb 4 week of Lapodiolite is not hacked from Rebecca Sugar's information. I think it's just somebody made this, and I don't think this is true. And I'll explain why at the end. But now I'm going to discuss what I think about the episodes. Okay, the answer. Airing tomorrow, I'm so excited, on January 4th. This episode, basically what the description says is Garnet tells Stephen the story about how Ruby and Sapphire first met, and I've actually seen the extended version of the trailer, and oh my gosh, this is when we actually get to start seeing gems. Okay, so there are 3 rubies, and they all have gems on different parts of their body. Like, the real one has it on their palm, the other one has it on the back of their hand, and the other one has it on their shoulder. And this is when I started to get fanatic. There are silhouettes, colored silhouettes, of other gems in the background. And I'm not sure that we're actually going to see them in full color, because this is kind of like a flashback for Garnet, but I think this is amazing. So I think that once Ruby, if you've seen the extended trailer, falls into Sapphire, I think Sapphire is going to say nothing. However, I think Ruby is just going to say a bunch of stuff, and I think some of the gems around them will start to talk. And I'm not keen on exactly what will happen, but I think at the end of the story, after Garnet finishes telling the story, Ruby and Sapphire will say goodnight to Stephen, and then they will fuse back into Garnet. And about the story in the middle, I'm really not sure. I think it's just going to show them about how they continue on their journey, and Ruby and Sapphire are slowly starting to talk to each other. And then I feel like Garnet will appear in that flashback as a fusion. So let's move on. The next episode, Stephen's birthday, airing January 6th on Cartoon Network. This is about Stephen's birthday, where he turns 14. This description is basically Stephen has a birthday party and he has to do some growing up. So I've seen the trailer for this, and basically Stephen's just there. And, like, all of a sudden, they start, like, making balloons, and Connie comes, and Greg comes, and stuff like that. And Connie's actually staying for the weekend. And at a part, Connie and Stephen do start dancing. So I think, and I really hope Stevani comes back. So I feel like Stevani's going to come back. Anyways, as for this, I feel like Stephen's going to, like, after he goes inside, and then the gems are going to say happy birthday to him. And I've seen the Stephen Bomb 4 promo, too, so I know some parts about this, but this is basically mostly predictions. Okay, so I predict that, like, he's gonna come out and he's gonna be, like, more teenager-y, like, I don't know, like, how, like, you would see modern teenager these days, like, and how they talk and etc. And I feel like he's gonna be, like, wearing a suit or something. And this is really hard, because I really don't know what's gonna happen. So this is the most fuzziest episode in my brain for me. And the other ones, I get so detailed into what I think is going to happen that they're most likely something is incorrect. Okay, let's move on to the episode airing January 6th. It could have been great. It could have been great, yeah. So there's the trailer to this, which is actually the least interesting out of all the trailers I've seen. And however, I think this episode is going to be really interesting. So, basically, the description says that the crystal gems are taking a trip to the moon. And when they're taking a trip to the moon, this is what I predict is going to happen. So, all 5 of them, Steven, Peridot, Amethyst, Pearl, and Garnet, and each one of these gems is going to represent their pictures throughout the story, decide to go to the moon. Now, I don't exactly know why they're going to decide, so I've come up with some possible predictions. The crystal gems I know they're relaxing and enjoying the view, but they might notice some kind of signal. So then they might decide from the moon, like some weird yellow spot or something. So they might have to go to the moon somehow. And once they're there, I theorize that Yellow Dimond's going to be hidden in some spot. We won't see her in this episode, but she will be controlling things and sending armies out. And here's my next theory. Well, Yellow Dimond's on the moon. Peridot notices some, flashing, or she notices a small signal on the Earth. And she says, on the moon. So she convinces the crystal gems to go to the moon so she can see what's up, and she thinks it's the Yellow Dimond, which it is. And the third theory for this is that Yellow Dimond is sending messages to Peridot somehow, and Peridot realizes this and tries to trick the gems into going. And then there's the one last fourth theory, which is where they all just decide to go to the moon. But I think the most likely theory is the first one. So I'm going to go with that. So they all arrive on the moon, and I'm going to say that there is a new gem that we've never ever seen before in this episode, which I don't know what it is. So it is going to be represented by this little thing right up here. So I think what's going to happen is that gem is going to be tricking them, or getting them to do some things, and getting them to go and do certain things, and getting her to follow them. And actually, I feel like later she will take Amethyst or Poofer, but I'll explain that later. So back to Amethyst. So Garnet and Pearl are there, and I feel like Steven, Peridot, and Amethyst are going to go off on their own things where Garnet and Pearl expect something. And they're going to run into that gem, and that gem is going to try to take Peridot and Amethyst with them. And Peridot might know who this is. So Peridot, well, I'm going to say she doesn't. And Amethyst is a little reluctant, but she goes. Steven decides to stay back because he feels like something's not right, and he decides to stay with the gems. And I feel like this little thing at the bottom, that is something that the gems will later discover, and they haven't noticed it yet, but it is something that is there. We won't see it in this episode, or maybe a glimpse of it, but they're going to go back to it later in the season. So, Yellow Dimond's in the center of the moon. Amethyst is lost, and their ship is starting to, crash, and the moon is starting to get really scary for them, so they have to go back with or without Amethyst. And Steven feels bad because he left Amethyst behind. So he's in the spaceship with Garnet and Pearl, and they go home. Or unless they find a way to warp home, because I'm pretty sure there is actually a warp pad on the moon. Next episode, airing January 7th. This episode is called Message Received, and I will go into extreme detail. I don't think this is all accurate, but if I'm correct, this will be the most intense Steven Universe episode to ever exist so far. Okay. So Steven is going to walk in, and Peridot's going to be making an audio recording on that thing Steven gave her. And Peridot's going to be no to Steven. She's going to be, oh, I was just doing nothing. And then they're going to go off and talk together. However, then Peridot is going to notice Yellow Dimond's ship, which is going to look something like this based on the promo of the Steven Universe 4. So Peridot's going to be right here when the thing comes up, and it's going to be Yellow Dimond inside there, and Yellow Dimond's going to come out to see Peridot, and actually, Steven and the gems are going to come over, just like they do in the episode Catch and Release, how they appear on the warp pad and they just catch Peridot. They're going to start fighting. Now, Yellow Dimond's a lot more powerful than them, so these three, Garnet, Pearl, and Amethyst, decide to fuse. However, also, either it comes out of the sea or it comes from the ship, which I actually think comes from the ship for some reason. comes Malachite. And Malachite is there. And when the gems fuse, they fuse into Alexandrite. And Alexandrite tells Steven to stay behind her. Yellow Dimond and Peridot are there. And Malachite even has Peridot's lemon enhancers that fell into the sea, and she found them. So Peridot she puts those on, and then actually, she even uses her robot, like her little thing, like that she built during the episode Back to the Barn. However, they decide that's not powerful against Alexandrite enough. And then Yellow Dimond orders all of them to fight. However, Malachite is she's not very stable because Lapis doesn't want to fight. So they unfuse, and Lapis manages to fly away safely. And Jasper's there. So Japis, Yellow Dimond, and Peridot decide to fuse into, I don't know the name, but I'm guessing, here's a guess, Emerald. And Emerald's a lot bigger than Alexandrite. And they fight, and eventually Alexandrite's a little unstable, so she breaks up. And Steven's still behind her. And they're all still there. And, whatchamacallit, Emerald's there, and Emerald unsplits after they've taken a good beating. And they don't poof, but they basically just unfuse. So Yellow Dimond, Jasper, and Peridot are all there. And they say... And since Peridot, basically she's betrayed them. She's been tricking them this whole time. So, Steven can't believe this. And Peridot and Yellow Dimond talk, and they want to bring Amethyst back to Homeworld because she could be stronger, and she's a quartz warrior, and she didn't turn out like she was supposed to in the kindergarten. So they decided to take her against her will. And they capture her and bring her back in the ship that Yellow Dimond controls, and they fly away. And then Steven's like, oh my god, I trusted Peridot. And that's why the description of this episode is actually Steven learns to not trust everyone. And then I think Steven will start singing a song somewhat like to Full Disclosure. And I'm really excited if this happens. So then I think that's basically the end of the episode. So then there's log date 7/15/2, and this is my theory on what will happen, or prediction. So Steven is walking around. Basically, it just left off on what last episode happened. He's still walking around. He's done with his song. Then he notices Peridot's little, pod, her recording thing that Steven gave to her. So he decides to listen to it to see what she was doing and talking about. And he says, yep, she was betraying me. And why am I calling Steven a she? He tells Pearl and Garnet and shows them the recording. And then Steven starts singing another song with the crystal gems about, Amethyst is gone and what do we do now? So first Steven starts singing, and then it's kind of like, this song is kind of like, Strong in the Real Way, how Pearl starts singing, then Steven starts singing separately. So Steven starts singing, then Pearl starts singing separately, and Garnet's in view, and then Garnet starts singing. And I basically think that's where the episode approximately ends. Maybe we'll get a short clips of I Don't Think So, because the episodes don't usually do this. But possibly, I don't think this, but we might get a short glimpse of, the Yellow Dimond ship again, and, it might cut to Amethyst saying, let me out of here or something. But basically, Steven will go back to singing after that. And then the episode ends. However, this is Steven Bob 4, and after a long hiatus, this finally came out. However, nobody really knows what's going to happen after this. Now, I don't know what's going to happen after this. Nobody really knows yet. Besides Rebecca Sugar and Cartoon Network right now. But I think, I'm sorry to disappoint you guys, but they are going to go on another hiatus. And they might come back soon to the end of February. It's shorter hiatus, but middle of February maybe. I might be totally wrong. I honestly hope I am. This is honestly what my brain thinks, because they did this huge scene, and these episodes weren't planned, because in the in the actual list of episodes, these are new when Stephen Bob 4 was revealed and confirmed. And so I think they might need to change some of the old episodes a tiny bit, like make sure Amethyst is not there. So I feel like they are going to need to take a little bit of a hiatus, which some people are going to be really disappointed about. So basically that's that. And now I will actually explain to you why I don't think the week of Lapodii is happening. I mean, maybe Lapodii is Emerald, what I think is Emerald, but I don't really think so. Well, let's look at the pictures of this drawing. I didn't have much of a theory for the first episode, but I don't see what it has to do with fish, but yet again, I don't have much theory. The box might be some kind of present. I know Connie is, like, staying for the weekend, and Greg has to unpack all his stuff. This third one looks like a bottle of glue. Maybe it's some Yellow Dimond tactic force. I don't know. The fourth one perfectly matches mine. And the fifth one, usually it's a question mark. And I feel like usually the fifth episode is more intense, but this time it's a little less intense. And in the week of Sardonyx, basically the whole story arc was based on her. Like, the first episode, she was in it, and, like, the main arc happened with her. The second episode, Garnet started talking about Sardonyx. The third and fourth episodes took a break, but the fifth one returned to Sardonyx, and the arc ended. And if Lapodiolite maybe appears as one of the silhouettes in The Answer, and she is that character in 3, who leads them to the moon, or she could be that one in 4. Well, she's either one or the other. 1 in 3 and 1 or 4. She might not be in any of them. And I don't really think the whole story would have to do with Lapodiolite. She'd be kind of a side character as an introduced. So I don't think it would be called the week of Lapodiolite. And plus, yeah, that. If you actually look closely at the dates, it says like 8/10, 8/11, 8/12, 13, or maybe it says 1. But it looks kind of like a 3 or an 8. So I feel like that's off. So thank you very much, and goodbye.